What's up guys, Alex Glenn here, and today in today's video we're going to go over proper form, and more specifically proper form for the barbell bench press. And obviously, I'm not in the gym right now, so I don't have a bench press with a barbell available at the moment, but I do have a bench and this little bar here that I can demonstrate how to have the proper form and technique so you can more efficiently and effectively bench press. Obviously my form isn't always perfect, but I see so many people that go into the gym and they're bench pressing, but they literally have no form whatsoever. And sadly, their poor form, they may think they're putting in so much effort and putting in work, but it's not really going to get them any more muscle gains. It's just going to ultimately result in injury. So having proper form is absolutely critical, especially with any movement, but today we're just going to be talking about the bench press. So stay tuned. I'll go through every little tips on how I personally get set up, how I personally go through the motion, and things that you can do to look out for and practice to ultimately help you have a better bench press. And also, if you guys like this video, please comment or let me know, because I'd love to do more tutorials on certain exercises on how to have proper form. So without further ado, I'm just gonna get started right now. Alright guys, so the first thing you're going to want to do, obviously, is when you walk up to the bench rack or bench press, you want to look at the bar and the setup of the machine itself. So obviously there's not really much you can do in terms of the bench. I know some benches, they have the ability where you can either push them in or out. I like to go as close together as I can. And then also just make sure the bench is flat, obviously, because today we're just going to be doing a flat barbell bench press, not a decline or an incline. We're just going to be worrying about flat bench press, just because it's the most kind of standard or common version. So make sure the bench is flat, kind of line up how you want. And the most important thing to look at is the height of the bar. So normally we'd have some racks up here to hold the bar for us, but for today I'm just going to hold it myself. And this is purely just a preference thing. And you want the bar to be set up at a spot where it's not too high and not too low. Because if it's too high, we're going to end up having to reach forward with our shoulders, and we're going to lose our scapular retraction. We're not going to be able to keep our shoulders back like this. And ultimately, if our shoulders have to come forward and really reach for the bar, we're going to be putting a lot of pressure on our AC joint, and that's how we're going to tear our shoulder and mess up stuff fast, and we do not want that. Also though, the opposite. If the bar is too low, so say the bar is like right here, and you're going to have to be in this position to really push the bar off the rack, it's almost like you're doing, you're doing a half repetition to get that bar off. And not that there's anything wrong with really form with that, but when it comes to the workout itself, you're going to be fatiguing yourself or pre-fatiguing yourself a lot more just by getting the bar off the rack. So if you can kind of find that happy medium where it's not too high where you don't have to reach, and it's not too low where you're already doing a rep to get it off, I like to put it right there so there's a slight bend in my elbows. And that way all it takes is just a quick little oomph of energy, and that bar is off the rack. Alright, so now that everything is all set up, the next thing I'm going to be doing is obviously we're going to be getting into the movement itself. And the first thing I like to look at before I get into the movement is my foot placement, because the bench is a compound movement. You're literally driving through your entire body, starting from your feet all the way up into the main muscle group, your chest. So when I walk up to the bench, I like to come up to it, put my ass back to the bench like you're going to be benching, obviously, and I like to get my feet lined up. Now personally, what I like to do is I like to keep my feet just wider than shoulder width, and I like to put my heels, for me, just in front of the little support beams that come out to the side of the bench. I like to line them up just in front of that. Obviously this is something else, a preference thing, so play around with this a little bit to figure out what works best for you. And then once my feet are all set, I like to put my butt right on the edge of the bench. That way it's going to help me keep an arch in my back. If you go too far like this, you're going to take the drive out of your leg if you sit too far back, and it's going to be purely just your triceps and chest trying to take away from the movement. Where if you can use your legs into it with proper form, you're going to be able to lift a lot more weight. So I can sit right at the edge of the bench. And the next thing I'm going to do is obviously I'm going to lay back onto the bench. So I'm going to lay back just like this, scoop myself back up forward if I need to. And the biggest thing here with proper form is you want to be able to arch your back. Now some of us, we might not be flexible enough at first to do this, or some of us just might not have the range of motion. But ultimately, you want to be able to have an arch in your back just like this. My shirt's kind of covering it up, but you can see there's a complete gap in between my back and the bench. And what I'm really resting on is my rear delts right up here. So this is another big thing is your scapular retraction. You don't want to just lay on the bench flat like this with the flat back, shoulders up like this. Like I said earlier, you're just going to blow your shoulders out. If you come up to the movement with your shoulders and everything up like this, and you're having to reach to get that weight up. The bar is going to be up here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to find my grip, then I'm going to retract my shoulder blades just like this, keep that arch in my back. And now, right here, I'm all set and I'm all ready to go. Except for one thing. Now I need my grip on the bar. So personally, it's a preference thing as well, but I find that if I get kind of like a middle grip between a close and a wide, I'm the strongest. Now, lots of us who are in sports, we're told to go put our thumbs to the start of the grip and then pull them in and stay right there. And it leaves with a relatively narrow grip. Just like this, I don't know if you guys can see, but it's a very narrow grip, which is just fine, but it's going to be using a lot more triceps than your chest. So if I find that if I go into a middle grip, I can get the best of both worlds. I can get lots of tricep activation, but also mainly chest activation and be hitting my pecs properly. I find if you go too wide, like a power lifter, I mean, it's fine, but you're just going to miss out on some range of motion. And in terms of building muscle, you want to have the most optimal range of motion. So I find that middle ground is my happy medium. And for me personally, on a barbell, there is the start of the grip. So we'll call this the start of the grip right here. It's just kind of smooth and it gets grippy. Then as you go into the grip, there's a ring that kind of wraps around the grip and it's smooth. We'll call the edge of this purple lining right here the ring. What I like to do for me personally is take my ring finger and put it right on the ring, and that's how I know where my grip is in line. Now some of us, if we have a shorter wingspan, we might want to put our pinky on the ring finger, or on the edge of the ring, or even just bring our hands in farther altogether. If we have really, really long arms, or if you're powerlifting or something like that, it's okay to bring that middle finger and put it on the ring as well. I didn't mean to give you guys a bird, but I'm just demonstrating here. And you can put that on the ring as well. But like I said, with anything, it's majority just preference. So play around with it and figure out what's most comfortable for yourself. Alright, so now that we talked about getting set up, obviously get your feet in line. I like to put my butt on the edge of the seat right here. Then we're going to lean back, retract our shoulder blades, get that nice arch in our back. And obviously if we took our time to set up properly, we're going to have that bar in a spot where it's just over our eyes. You want to be look directly right up at the bar. It should line up right with your eyes. But it's not in a spot where it's too high, where it's having to reach like this, or it's not in a spot where it's too low. We're just in the nice kind of happy medium. I have my grip right, I have my ring finger right on the edge of the lining there, and I'm all set to go. So now it's time to actually talk about the range of motion and the movement itself. So the biggest thing to focus on is obviously your form, but secondly to that, I would almost say is your breathing. So when I'm sitting here, I'm all ready to go. I'm going to take a big breath in. I'm going to fill my gut with as much air as I can, and that way it's going to allow me to press and get more momentum. So I'm going to sit here, exhale, then I'm ready to go. I'm going to take a big breath in. Then I'm going to push that weight off just like this with that big gulp. Now I'm sitting the weights up. I'm going to come down, but before I come down with every rep, I'm going to take a big gulp of air in, and that's going to allow me to conserve energy and have a lot more power. So I'm going to breathe in. And as I come back up to the top, right before I get to the top, I'm breathing out. So now that we have our breathing in line, I like to take a big breath in before every rep, and then just enough to finish it, let it out. Now that we have that done, we're going to talk about the motion. So as you're coming down, a lot of this is going to be with how your elbows are aligned. if your elbows are flared out, which I see many people make the mistake of doing, I used to do this all the time, you're going to be emphasizing a lot of the chest, but you're going to be ultimately putting a lot of stress on your shoulders and taking the power out of the triceps. Where if you can learn to tuck your elbows in like this, you're going to be distributing the weight a lot more evenly across your body, and you're going to have a lot more power and strength and a lot less risk of injury. And it's only natural for us to flare our elbows because that's the body's just natural response to responding to heavier weight in order to get weight up. But whenever possible, I recommend just practicing keeping your elbows tucked in, because you're going to have a lot more power and strength. So one other thing I forgot to mention when you're benching is you want to be able to drive through your entire body. Obviously it's a chest movement. You're trying to grow your pecs, put your pecs in the movement, also your triceps as well, even a little bit of delta action. But what really makes a successful bench press is being able to use your full body and have strong quads and drive through your heels and push the energy all the way up through your body. So literally, when I say push through your legs, it's almost going to be like you're trying to stand up and thrust your hips into the movement. I'm just going to set this down real quick. So I'm all set up, everything, get lined up, arch my back, and you'll even see this lots of times when I post benching videos, you'll see my butt comes off the bench just because I'm driving with my legs. So you're going to come down, and obviously, if the butt comes off the bench, it just means you're driving with your legs. And technically, if we're getting really technical and going into like a powerlifting meet, your butt is supposed to stay on the bench. But for the average person who's just looking to bench press, get stronger, grow their chest, it's not a huge deal. As long as we're still keeping our form right and getting a full range of motion, it's not going to matter if our butt's coming off the bench. Obviously, if you're going crazy and just looking like an idiot, you're going to be using a lot more momentum, taking lots of tension off the chest, and ultimately just injure yourself. But for the average person, just keep the weight controlled, proper form, proper range of motion, and it's not a huge deal. But really, this leg drive, driving through your heels, it's almost like you're doing a hip thrust. And it's just going to transfer all that energy momentum up into your chest when you're pressing that weight. But yeah, so real quick, I'll do just a demonstration of, without even saying anything, just what I would do when I get set up for the movement. Alright guys, so I hope you enjoyed that video on how to properly bench press. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. And also if you like this, like I already mentioned, let me know and I'd be happy to do form tutorials on any kind of movement itself. But yeah, so that's basically it. Just really make sure taking the time to properly set up your equipment and also taking the time to properly just master that form. Remember, quality over quantity. Doesn't matter how much or how many reps you can get, but rather how many reps or weight you can do with perfect form. Because ultimately, if you don't have perfect form, you're not going to be targeting your muscles properly and breaking down enough muscle fiber, and therefore you won't grow your muscles or get any stronger. So really take the time to hone in on this and perfect your movement. That's about all I got to say right now. Yeah, peace.